Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 269 based on novel. So let's start. At the top of the castle peak, there is a zither and a cottage. On the occasion of Xiao Yan's ascent to the top, all the stone terraces below collapsed, red lotus blossomed, and the flame curled. In the pool, the water formed ice, and the lotus turned into fire. This just proves that things in the world do not have to be clear to have no fish. In extremely cold water, naturally no fish can exist. At the top of the Green Mountain, there is only a platform more than 10 feet long and wide. A thatched house is on the side of the cliff. It is surrounded by rocks and weeds. On a piece of green stone, there is a zither painted with lotus, but no one exists. When he settled down, Xiao Yan gasped for a while, feeling the surging power in his body. He couldn't help but show a look of happiness on his face. It's also a pity that Yi Honglian kept his hand. Otherwise, if he was really infected by the fire of Honglian industry, Xiao Yang would have no chance to stand here, let alone take the opportunity to break through his accomplishments. You swallowed my red lotus fire. At this time, a slightly angry woman's voice suddenly sounded. On the unmanned platform, the zither was fluctuated by an invisible force. Suddenly, the terrible momentum spread out in an instant, and Xiao Yang's body knelt down in an instant. Later, Li Bingrui also quickly climbed to the top of the mountain, but she was not deterred by the coercion. With a cold face, she first looked at Xiao Yang, who was kneeling on the ground. Then she frowned and looked at the grass house in front of her, and quickly bowed to salute. "Master, this guy is not only mean and shameless, but also forcibly absorbs your different fire into the body, so as to improve his cultivation and break through the shackles of the stone steps. According to the disciples, it's better to throw him down the mountain. From now on, he can't step into the fire maple forest. I'd like to thank you for your kindness. If it weren't for your permission, I wouldn't be able to further my cultivation." The two people spoke in unison, but Xiao Yang's words made Li Bingrui frown. His cold eyes fell on Xiao Yang and said angrily, "Who is willing? It is clear that you are shameless and forcibly absorb the teacher's flame into your body." "Yes." As a light came out, the momentum and pressure that fell on Xiao Yang's head dissipated in an instant. At the same time, a beautiful woman in a burning red dress also appeared on the platform. The latter was sitting in front of the zither. The white and slender jade hand gently stroked the string, and the fingertips moved, and there was a wonderful sound of the zither. When Xiao Yang looked up, the scene in front of him was really amazing. The woman's long fiery red hair stirs people's hearts. When it floats in the wind, the hair sticks to her cheek, which is more flirtatious. Against the background of the sun, this cheek also looks particularly beautiful, white and smooth like milk. Her eyes are as bright as gemstones, with wise light. If you look more, it seems that even people will fall into it. Her upturned nose is cute at first, the red lips are more delicate and charming. With the extension of the curve and the expansion of the line of sight, the graceful figure will be fully included in the eyes. I have to say that this is really a beauty in the world. It's really different from those two bad old men. Immediately, as soon as Xiao Yang's eyes turned, he immediately thought of Guyo and Haimo Dust. They are both different fires, and they are all left by the ancient emperor Tuorsha. The gap between Yi Honglian and them is really big. If the two old men turned into women, it would look like. Xiao Yang really can't imagine. Buzz. But then, when Xiao Yang was distracted, Yi Honglian's slender fingertips gently plucked the strings, and an invisible wave swept out in an instant. When Xiao Yang looked up, he blew it out with a blow. Fortunately, Xiao Yang regained his mind in time. Just before falling off the cliff, he got up and stabilized his body with Qianjue step. "If you dare again, I'll get you out of here. I know my mistake." As soon as Yi Honglian's words fell, Xiao Yang immediately bowed down respectfully and apologized. Li Bingrui on the side wished Yi Honglian would just drive Xiao Yang away. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at Xiao Yang with disgust in their eyes. Yi Honglian ignored it and played the piano himself. She didn't seem to care what Xiao Yang came here for. "Binger, the pool water is frozen. Don't you go and have a look?" For a long time, when Li Bingrui was impatient, Yi Honglian made a sound again. When the latter heard the speech, the expression on her pretty face suddenly changed, as if she thought of something, but after looking at Xiao Yang on one side and hesitating a little, she respectfully saluted Yi Honglian and then went down the mountain by herself. Little by little, Yi Honglian had nothing to say, but Xiao Yang remained motionless. On the top of the mountain, he could only hear the sound of the piano until a certain moment. At the end of the song, Yi Honglian stabilized the string, raised a pair of charming eyes and looked at Xiao Yang in front of her. At this time, the latter was still a respectful posture of bending down, with beads of sweat on her forehead. Until Yi Honglian's sight came, she raised her body slightly. Do you know why I didn't want to talk to you before? The older generation tests the younger generation's mind and concentration, and the younger generation should try their best to complete it. With such respectful words on her mouth, Xiao Yang secretly tilted her mouth in her heart. She didn't say, who knows what her real intention is. There's no need to say more flattering nonsense. I also know what you think in your heart. Those are not important to me, and I don't care. As long as you don't say it, it doesn't matter. I'm a disciple of Binga. If you don't support her, you can't get close to me, let alone get Honglian Yehua. Now Binga leaves for the moment, let's talk about you. Younger generation, please speak. As soon as Yi Honglian's voice fell, Xiao Yang quickly saluted respectfully. With the previous behavior, at the moment, he dared not easily see the woman in front of him. The so-called beauty is a disaster, but this is true. Since both Guyo and Haimo Chen have chosen you, I can't say more. I can give you the red lotus fire, but before that, you must promise me a request. If you can't do it, then, as long as the elder puts forward, the younger generation will try their best to do it. This time, before the former's voice fell, Xiao Yang expressed his determination with a firm face, just like a look of or inspiring righteousness, which seemed quite ambitious. Seeing this, Yi Honglian smiled a little jokingly and joked. Well, you marry Binga and treat her well all her life. This. Elder, I. As soon as this remark came out, Xiao Yang's face froze. Isn't Yi Honglian pushing him into the fire pit? Let's not talk about Li Bingrui's views on him. Even Luo Jin's side, he's afraid it's hard to explain. If he really answered Yi Honglian's request, wouldn't he be torn by Luo Jin? That's it. Make a thunder punishment oath. Yi Honglian said with a moving smile. Looking at Xiao Yang's dull face, it was obvious that she had not recovered from the vibration just now. Make a thunder punishment oath. From now on, I will let Binga follow you. You cannot marry her, but you must protect her. If something happens to her, I will be punished by thunder. At the same time that Yi Honglian's words fell, Xiao Yang also opened his mouth, and his face looked firm. Soon afterwards, thunder clouds gathered in the sky, and the thunder punishment oath was formed. The next day, when the edge of the eastern sky just turned up a touch of fish belly white, Xiao Yang, who had been sitting on the top of the mountain for a night, slowly opened his eyes. A fine awe passed through the depths of a pair of dark eyes, and his breath swayed slightly, and then he was converged into the body. After a night's continuous refining, the cultivation that broke through yesterday has solidified a lot. Next, it's time to prepare to refine Yi Honglian's burning formula. To Xiao Yang's surprise, Yi Honglian had mastered the complete skill of burning formula in her hands. For this, Yi Honglian didn't quite understand the reason. She only remembered that when she turned into human form, this skill had been stored in her mind and didn't give it to Xiao Yang until yesterday. It's an unexpected joy for Xiao Yang to get the complete skill of burning formula. Now the burning formula is complete. As long as you refine it, you can start to prepare for refining the red lotus fire. At that time, Xiao Yang believes that his accomplishments will be able to jump to the realm of the Source King, but I don't know. If you add the remaining earth core milk pulp in his hand, whether cultivation can reach the realm of Yuan Huang. Once he reached that level, plus the means in Xiao Yang's hands now, no one must be able to really threaten him in this far south. Even if the two major sects joined hands, he was fearless. Of course, the premise was that he did not involve burning Valley. After a short rest, Xiao Yang closed his eyes and looked inside again. At the moment, there was a red light about the size of a fist in his mind. This was the whole burning formula given to him by Yi Honglian. The whole of the light mass looks like a fire-red lotus in full bloom. There is a circle of red light around the package, which emits a hot smell. Although it is not a special force, it is also surprising. With the experience of the previous 2 times, the process of refining and burning the formula was as smooth as before. In less than 2 hours, all the information contained in the light group was refined and absorbed by Xiao Yang, so as to become a part of himself. Later, Xiao Yang took advantage of this momentum, and after a burst of crazy cultivation, his cultivation was completely stable in the later stage of Guyuan territory, and even had an attitude close to the peak of the later stage of Guyuan territory. However, he finally stopped under the deliberate suppression of Xiao Yang. Although he can indeed reach the peak of the later stage of returning to the source with the help of the power of burning formula, it is better to be steady in the process of cultivation. If he is too hasty, it will only backfire. Of course, having said that, within half a year, Xiao Yang's accomplishments successively broke through from the later stage of Huayuanjing to the later stage of returning to Yuanjing. Such a speed has been extremely amazing. Once such a terrible speed is spread, I'm afraid it will attract the hostile eyes of many people. Well, the breath is concise and the cultivation is completely stable. It seems that refining the burning formula will be of great benefit to you. Yi Honglian raised her eyes and looked down at Xiao Yang in front of her. Although her words were ordinary, there was also a look of surprise in the depths of her eyes. Even if the skill is powerful, the key to the refinement and growth of cultivation depends on its own ability. If you are an ordinary person, even with the help of top skills, you may not be able to achieve such miraculous effect. I would also like to thank you for giving the whole chapter of the burning formula to the younger generation. Otherwise, the cultivation of the younger generation could not be consolidated. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang replied with a respectful and modest salute. The latter smiled and didn't bother to say more. The white and slender jade finger caressed the piano in front of him again. With the melodious sound of the piano, the void in front of Xiao Yang suddenly twisted, a little red orn quietly bloomed, and then extended. In a twinkling of an eye, it grew into a beautiful red lotus. The flame curled up on it, emitting a particularly terrible high temperature, and this is what Xiao Yang is looking for in the fire maple forest. Different fire, red lotus fire. At the moment of seeing the fire lotus in front of him, Xiao Yang's breathing stopped for a moment. A pair of dark eyes stared at the fire lotus in front of him. The hot look in his eyes was self-evident, and the excitement in his heart made his whole body tremble uncontrollably. Since he returned to the southern regions, he has been thinking about this and explored it in many ways in order to find the red lotus fire as soon as possible. Up to now, the red lotus fire, which ranks 8th in the list of different fires, finally appeared in front of him. There is no facade, no illusion, and no obstruction. The red lotus fire is a hot thing for Xiao Yang at the moment. Boy, I know you've been waiting for this moment for a long time, but I still want to remind you again. Remember what I said and your commitment. We must keep Bingus integrity. Although there is a thunder punishment oath, you should remember that I will always stare at you. When Yi Honglian's last sentence fell, his figure sitting in front of the guqin gradually dissipated in the breeze. Only the last sentence full of strange and cold echoed in Xiao Yang's mind, making him gradually come back after a long time. Then, the fire of Honglian industry in front of him became violent in an instant. Boom! The terrible power of the flame swept away at once, and the grand flame shone on the green mountain like a new sun. The mountains and stones collapsed rapidly, and the hut was burned into nothingness. The vitality of the surrounding earth dissipated immediately, and even a flame rushed towards Xiao Yang himself. This time, Xiao Yang doesn't have any pill as an aid. However, there is still a sharp weapon in his hand. As soon as the palm turned over, the time flash of Najiden between the fingers. Then, a blue ice crystal the size of a thumb appeared over the palm, which was a very cold soul. At the moment of the appearance of the extremely cold ice spirit, a dark wind suddenly blew up in the originally hot world. A thin layer of ice was immediately spread on Xiao Yang's palm, and countless broken ice in the air condensed. The weather on the top of the mountain quickly became cold, and the climate of the square heaven and earth was constantly alternating between ice and fire. Controlling this extremely cold soul, Xiao Yang bent his fingers and shot it directly into the red lotus fire. Then with a big hand, the light blue flame rushed up, swallowed all the red fire light, wrapped the fire lotus into a light mass the size of the palm, and the outer layer was a light blue flame as a defense against the internal red lotus fire. At the moment, it is temporarily suppressed under the action of extremely cold spirit. Next, it's time for Xiao Yang to swallow it. Without much hesitation, Xiao Yang took a big bite and swallowed the light. Then, the terrible force suddenly broke out and rushed into Xiao Yang's body like a violent beast. On the top of the mountain in the clear sky and blue sun, Xiao Yang sat down like an old monk, unaware of everything outside his body. All his mind and spirit were placed in his body, concentrating on refining the red lotus fire in his body. Boom! In the cyclone, even with the extremely cold spirit and the obstruction and suppression of its own different fire, the fire of Honglian industry is still extremely crazy. A hot flame continues to sweep through Xiao Yang's body, wantonly destroying Xiao Yang's body. The terrible high temperature, even with Xiao Yang's determination, can't help but show his teeth and tighten his muscles involuntarily. The cold sweat came out, and the skin of the whole body became red. In addition, the extremely cold spirit also exudes an extremely cold smell, while madly suppressing the fire of the red lotus industry, and at the same time, it also freezes Xiao Yang's body. Ice spikes continue to form in Xiao Yang's body, and the blood and flesh of meridians and even bones become icy cold under this extremely cold. If Xiao Yang had different fire to protect his body and the source qi was continuously dredged, even the body must be completely destroyed under this double extreme. In addition to resisting the pain brought to the body by the two kinds of energy in the body, Xiao Yang has to start crazy refining and absorption by means of the burning formula. The different fire constantly rises from the center of the cyclone and forcibly blends the red lotus fire with the extremely cold spirit, making the two gradually become balanced. When Xiao Yang can bear the violent power between the two, he uses the energy of the burning formula under the control of the different fire, start refining red lotus fire. Through the short-term balance between the two, Xiao Yang madly refined the power of the fire of the red lotus industry, gradually guided it into the practice route of burning dew, and then returned to the cyclone after a long period of refining, which is only the first step of successful refining. Until a certain moment. Boom! Without waiting for Xiao Yang to refine and devour the fire of the red lotus industry, the only power contained in the extremely cold soul has been consumed by it. The terrible power has lost control again, and the power that has been suppressed for a long time burst out in an instant. The fierce flame instantly destroyed all the defenses set in Xiao Yang's body without any sign or time for any preparation. The red lotus fire burst out of Xiao Yang's body. In a twinkling of an eye, Xiao Yang turned into a skeleton again. The blood burned out, and the body was destroyed. Only a skeleton and soul were left to frantically resist the rage of the red lotus fire. Drink! The silent roar came from the depths of Xiao Yang's soul. In his empty eyes, light blue flames immediately gushed out, and quickly hit the whole body like a volcanic eruption. In the blink of an eye, every bone on this terrible red burning man's body was filled with light blue flames, and the burning formula skill was run to the extreme at this moment. It can even be seen that at the lower abdomen of Xiao Yang's skeleton body, a green and red alternating flame windroll is whistling and rotating. Every flame burning on his body is pulled by the windroll and gradually inhaled into it to become a part of the windroll. At the same time, the icy water pool at the foot of the mountain is constantly absorbed under the traction of some force, and the cold ice in Tan also melts and dissipates. Burn the formula. Refine it for me. On the top of the mountain, when the red flame gradually disappeared, Xiao Yang's body appeared again. After the cruel forging of different fire, today's body is stronger than before. Under the thin body, every inch of muscle, even every cell, now contains strength several times or even 100 times stronger than in the past. In his body, the refining of red lotus fire has been gradually completed. Next, as long as it is integrated into the refined bone spirit cold fire, sea heart flame and those subfires, everything will be completed. In the outside world, shortly after Xiao Yang entered the fire maple forest, Tian Puppet sect and one scorpion sect officially announced their alliance, and the situation in the extreme south became more serious. This incident made countless people in an uproar. Everyone failed to understand how Tien Puppet sect, as a human race, could join hands with one scorpion sect, betray human identity and collude with Warcraft. Such acts are not despised by the world. It is precisely for this reason that many forces in the extreme south who boast of being everyone have chosen to vote in the Burning Valley. On the one hand, they have explained their position as human beings, and on the other hand, they have found a good backer for themselves. After all, once Tien Puppet sect and one Scorpion sect join hands to massacre the large and small forces in the extreme south, they do not think they have the ability to resist. As for surrender, there is a strong ancestor of burning heaven in the Burning Valley. Compared with the two sects, the existence of this strong person is much more than all kinds of threats. For the participation and support of various forces, Burning Valley is not stupid enough to refuse. After some general screening, some clean forces joined them. Others came either for other purposes or simply for self-protection. Naturally, Burning Valley will not allow them to join. The two cases of alliance in the extreme south also helped them gather strength for the Burning Valley in some way. However, this behavior was obviously expected by them. Therefore, 6 months after the two cases of alliance, they organized the first cleanup of the forces in the Burning Valley, and this war also completely opened the situation in the extreme south. For the two violations, Huoyangu showed no weakness and wantonly raised troops to attack them. During this period, large and small battles continued, and the war situation was particularly fierce. It can be said that thousands of miles of red land, fireworks, and countless cities were destroyed in endless war. Until now, almost every day, the border between the two sides will be violated. And this war is a full 3 years. In the past 3 years, there have been more than 1,000 battles between Burning Valley and two large and small battles, but it is difficult to win or lose after all. However, the two main gates seem not to worry. Not only do they have no anxiety and tension, but they continue to expand their own strength. To the east of the extreme south, they originally stood outside the three sects, but now, the two main gates have reached there, even the southwest border. It has long been rumored that Tianguizhong was involved. Now, it is a mess and no one can manage it. Up to now, almost all the vast territory of the whole southern region has fallen into the hands of the two sects. The war between the two sides is constantly tight. The real war is coming. However, at this time, Xiao Yan, who had been sitting for 3 years, finally opened his eyes slowly in the depths of the fire maple forest south of the extreme south. At the top of the cliff, Xiao Yan's eyes, which had been closed for 3 years, finally opened slowly at the moment. At the same time, a purple flame also passed through the depths of his eyes. After 3 years of refining and absorption, now, the fire of Honglian industry is finally completely integrated with the different fire in its body. He stood up and twisted his body gently. Suddenly, there was a crackling sound like firecrackers between the bones all over his body. Xiao Yan couldn't help breathing out a long breath with a comfortable sense of relaxation. He felt the full power in his body, and a satisfied smile appeared at the corners of his mouth, but then Xiao Yan noticed a touch of cold eyes. Turning around, Li Bingrui, dressed in a long blue dress and handsome cheeks, stood impressively on a cliff behind him. She was the one who had the murderous intention of Sen Han. "Well, are you happy and satisfied? But my teacher is gone. All this is because of you." Seeing Xiao Yang's intact appearance, Li Bingrui had all kinds of complaints in her heart. She didn't expect that the master obviously didn't want to pay attention to Xiao Yang at the beginning, but after she left, Xiao Yang got the red lotus fire as she wished. Although she left the customs, she could only watch Xiao Yang continue refining. Of course, Li Bingrui could kill Xiao Yang at that time, but she knew that if Yi Honglian didn't volunteer, Xiao Yang couldn't be able to refine the fire of Honglian. Besides, she didn't want to take advantage of people's danger. If she wanted to fight, she had to defeat Xiao Yang. In addition, before she left, Yi Honglian clearly put on an appearance of not paying attention to Xiao Yang, but this happened after she left. Obviously, Yi Honglian just showed her. I'm afraid the purpose is to prevent her from continuing to obstruct. Thinking about this in her heart, Li Bingrui's killing intention can't help alleviating a little, but looking back, she lost her master and the only family member in the world because of Xiao Yang, but she still can't let go of her killing intention for the latter. Sorry, I can understand your mood, but... You understand. The last word was just about to blurt out, but then, Li Bingrui suddenly remembered Xiao Yang's rogue behavior to himself, which made his face show shame and anger. At the same time, the suppressed killing intention suddenly rose in his heart. With a wave of jade hand, the cold ice sword suddenly condensed out of thin air. Then his charming body shook, and rushed over to Xiao Yang without hesitation. Asshole, I want you to pay. The distance between them is not far. In addition, with Li Bingrui's skill, the movement is naturally a little faster. In the blink of an eye, the long sword in his hand has come before Xiao Yang's jaw, and Xiao Yang's life can be easily taken in the next second. However, compared with Li Bingrui, Xiao Yang's movement is more than several times faster. When the long sword stabbed, Xiao Yang quickly stretched out 3 fingers to clamp the blade of the long sword. Unexpectedly, he controlled the long sword in his hand in an instant, so that he could not enter any more inch. Seeing this scene again, Li Bingrui was not too surprised, but the jade hand holding the long sword was severely shocked, and a cold air suddenly spread up along the long sword and quickly invaded Xiao Yang's palm. Hiss, hiss. However, this once made Xiao Yang under pressure. This time, when he reached Xiao Yang's palm, he was directly evaporated by an invisible hot energy. If Li Bingrui was not surprised in the previous scene, the appearance of this scene at the moment changed Li Bingrui's face. How could? 2-star Source King? Good. Xiao Yang pursed his mouth and smiled. Then his fingertips exerted a little force. An invisible force suddenly poured out along the sword body. Just listening to the click, the whole blade was broken. Li Bingrui also took a half-step backward. Then he looked at Xiao Yang incredulously. If it weren't for the rolling of cultivation, Xiao Yang couldn't completely ignore her ice source. Your accomplishments are far above me. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang smiled non-committally and immediately took a shortcut. If you don't mention this, you'd better leave here first. I've been refining heteroexergy for a long time, and I don't know what's going on in the Burning Valley. Let's go. After that, Xiao Yang turned and wanted to leave, but Li Bingrui was indifferent. Although she complained about Xiao Yang in her heart, she also understood that with her current cultivation, she could not kill each other at all. Even if there were more complaints, it was useless. Seeing that Li Bingrui didn't want to leave, Xiao Yang looked at her again, glanced up and down, pondered a little, and said, Your teacher asked you to follow me. She asked me to protect you. If you still listen to her, come with me. If you have to stay here, I won't say much. The voice fell, and Xiao Yang ignored the latter. He raised his feet and walked towards the northern sky. Later, Li Bingrui hesitated for a moment, and then followed coldly. As for what Xiao Yang said, Yi Honglian saw the information left by the master when she left the pass, but she really didn't want to see the guy who caused her to lose her master. If it weren't for Yi Honglian's last life, she would never follow the brazen, despicable and obscene guy in front of her. Now Xiao Yang's cultivation has stepped into the rank of the Source King. It's much faster to cross the fire maple forest again. In just a few hours, he has crossed countless mountains and forests, and met Zhu Hao and his son again on the periphery of the fire maple forest. However, it's better to say that they had been waiting here long before. After a few words of greeting, Xiao Yang took Li Bingrui to the north, while Zhu Hao looked at the back of the two people, especially Xiao Yang, who was quite shocked. This boy, no wonder the adult asked me to save him. In just 3 years, his cultivation has reached such a level, but why is there more in his breath? What Zhu Hao said is the fire of Honglian industry. Zhu Kan, who was on the other side, stared at the back of Li Bingrui leaving behind Xiao Yang with fear. He had never forgotten the shadow figure in his childhood. If it weren't for Li Bingrui's terrible, he might not have escaped from the fire maple forest. Alas, you boy, when can you be like the two of them? You are also the most perfect one of the blood flame birds of Laozi. If you lose someone to Laozi in the future, I will pull out your hair and make a fan. As soon as this remark came out, Zhu Kan immediately shrunk his head with fear. While Zhu Hao shook his head, He smiled foolishly and turned around and disappeared into the depths of the mountains and forests. At that speed, I'm afraid that for today's Xiao Yang, he would be surprised to see it. After leaving the fire maple forest, Xiao Yang continued to march north all the way. When passing the poison-falling cave, Xiao Yang's body swept away at a high speed, which was a little paused. Looking back on the war here, Xiao Mingyuan finally came forward to save him and Xiao Xian. Now Xiao Xian has already gone to the middle region. If you want to see Xiao Xian again, Xiao Yang must first go to the middle region, but before that, you'd better go back to the Burning Valley. Along the way, they quickly crossed a large wasteland. In the past, it took 2 or 3 days to cross the boundless Gobi. This time, Xiao Yang and they only took a few hours. When they reached the border of One Scorpion Gate, the city where Xiao Yang and Xiao Xian once passed, it was late and night had fallen quietly. They didn't mean to stop, but as they flew over the city, the conversation between the people in the city floated into Xiao Yang's ears. Alas, I don't know what the outcome of this two-way war will be. It's reasonable to say that the Burning Valley is better. After all, with a strong Yuanzong like the father of Burning Heaven, Burning Valley will be fine with him. That's right, but it's said that the puppet of the leader of the Heavenly Puppet Sect is as powerful as the 9-star Yuanhuang level, and he himself is also the Yuanhuang level. With the cooperation of the two, it's said that even the strong of the Yuanzong sect also has the power to fight a war, and the leader of the One Scorpion sect is the strong of the Yuanhuang peak level. If these two people are combined with the immortal puppet of King Kong, I'm afraid they will burn the sky. It's hard for me to say. At this point, many people around me felt a sense of regret. After all, the Burning Valley was once the strongest force in the extreme south, but now, the two major departments work together with each other. Even with the inside information of the Burning Valley, it is difficult to become an opponent. However, just as the words in their mouth had just fallen, a white palm was quietly put on one of them's shoulders. At the same time, a slightly gloomy voice also came into several people's ears. You just said, what happened to Burning Valley? The sudden voice of words suddenly changed the faces of several people around them. When they were about to turn around and scold, a terrible momentum and pressure suddenly fell on their heads. Their bodies were immediately frightened by this pressure, and their emotions at the bottom of their hearts became frightened. They could never think of such a strong man, it's just because they talked about burning the Burning Valley. But this is clearly the territory of One Scorpion Gate. A moment later, under the pressure of Xiao Yang, someone finally said all the information he knew. But when Xiao Yang heard about it, his face not only didn't turn back, but became more gloomy. Although these guys talked in front of people, in fact, they only knew 2 cases of war with Xiaoyang Valley. As for the number of strong players on both sides, but they didn't know it at all. This kind of information is better than nothing for Xiao Yang. Sir, we really only know these news. Please raise your hand. If you want to know more news, you'd better go to the city master's house in the city. There is a strong Yuan Wang of One Scorpion Gate. He should. Without waiting for the words of the people in front of him to fall, Xiao Yang's soul power has locked the only strong person at the Source King level in the city at the moment. Then his body suddenly flashed and disappeared into the street in the dark night. At the same time, in the depths of a mansion in the city, an ugly man was sitting naked on his bed, holding a beautiful woman with an enchanting figure in his arms. His 2 bodies were tightly intertwined with each other, and the sound of obscene laughter and moaning echoed in the hall. However, until a certain moment, the sound suddenly stopped. The beautiful woman's throat had been cut off by an invisible force. As for the big man, his throat had been pinched by a white hand, and his whole body was carried in the air. The crazy look in his eyes had not dispersed, and in the twinkling of an eye was replaced by endless panic. In front of him, a handsome man in a black robe was standing in front of Wei. His face was extremely cold. Staring at him, he seemed to have a killing intention. You. Who are you? The big man spits out his voice hard, and his inner emotion is extremely frightened. He doesn't even notice the breath of the latter. He has been controlled by the person in front of him, which makes him can't believe it. Now, what I ask, what you answer. Ignoring the latter's words, Xiao Yang said faintly. Even if he asked aloud, however, this guy didn't seem willing to cooperate easily. He just wanted to resist, but Xiao Yang broke his arms. The big man couldn't help but utter a painful cry. What I ask, what you answer, and next time, it's not just that. He squeezed the big man's palm slightly, and the latter's already red face trembled, so he had to answer in a hurry. Then, Xiao Yang asked about the specific situation between the three cases. At this time, Li Bingrui entered the room from outside the hall. When she saw the scene of *** in the hall, one cheek suddenly became red like fire. Her eyes quickly glanced at Xiao Yang, then turned away and left the hall. For a long time, when Xiao Yang came out, they didn't have much language communication, so they paced the sky again and quickly flew away towards the northern sky. After the pressing question just now, Xiao Yang knew that he had been closed for more than 3 years, and in these 3 years, the situation in the extreme south had undergone earth-shaking changes. All this was just as expected by the father who burned the sky. The most important thing is that the two people had poured out not long ago, and almost all the strong were united. It seems that the purpose of this trip is to destroy the burning valley. It is said that there are dozens of strong people above Shan Yuan King. This is what Xiao Yang is most worried about. Others may not know, but he knows very well that in addition to the strong team of dozens of people, there must be strong people in the ghost hall behind them. Once those people make a move, it will be difficult. Even if there is the ancestor of burning the sky, it may be difficult to preserve it. Moreover, the little medical fairy and Bai Hua must still be waiting for him to return to Burning Valley. No matter what this time, he must arrive at Burning Valley before the war. At the thought of this, Xiao Yang rushed forward a little faster. Later, although Li Bingrui complained, after seeing Xiao Yang's gloomy face, the words that had come to his mouth were swallowed back. He had to mention the source gas in his body and try his best to catch up with Xiao Yang's speed. This video will end here.